Hello quilters. Today I'm showing you a basic grid design that we can do the same design over different grid styles. Now last month we showed you about stencils, and today I'm going to use my line stencil to create a grid, a block grid. I'm going to use the triangle stencil to show that same design on the triangle stencil grid. And I'm going to use our new hexagon stencil grid, and as well as the grippy non-slip coating, which I sprayed on the back of my stencils, which makes a huge difference in controlling your stencil as it avoids slippage on your fabric. Now the design I'm showing you today is one of the basics. It's what I start off with in my grids class. And it's called the orange peel, or it's called the cathedral window, or continuous curve. It goes by any of those names. And it has a very specific sequence in order for you to complete an area of stitching with one stop and start, or as minimal stop and starts. And that sequence is down, over, back. And that is something we're going to repeat, and I will repeat this as I draw the design. And I will also have a little image for you to download which shows the sequence in colored pens so that you have it as a reference for future. Now the reason I start with this design in grids class is so that once you understand the process and the sequence of this design and breaking a design down into sections, you'll be able to apply that to more complicated designs as well and create your own grid designs by breaking it down and following a grid to stitch it. So we're going to start with our blocks grid. Now we need to just remember our sequence, and I'm going to put it up here so that, let's move this down a bit. There we go. So that you can see that I'm repeating it. So what I did is I pounced with my pounce box, and then in this instance, because I'm working on black paper for you to show today, I used my blue pounce so that I can wipe it off when I'm done drawing and you can see the design. And the sequence goes down, over, back. So find a spot that's easy to start. So let's say we're going to start in this corner, for instance. And now we're going to follow our sequence, and we're going to go continuous curve. So it's a slight curve that we're going to use, and we're going to just follow the grid. So I didn't stitch the grid, I just pounced it. On your quilt as well, either with a pounce or your blue water soluble pen. This is going to be your stitching now. A gentle curve, and you're going to go down, over, back, down, over, back, down. Now I'm at the bottom of the section, or the end of a section. Excuse me. And now I'm going to work my way back up again. So I'm going to go up, 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 which closes off each of these blocks except the first one. Now I've reached the top, and I continue with my sequence. Down, over, back, down, over, back, down, over, up, 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 down, over, back, down, over, back, down, over, up, up, up. And to close all of this off, I'm going to go back, back, back. And that gave me one stop and start. Now obviously when you're working with a fill around applique or around piecing designs, you will use that applique or piecing designs to travel in the ditch so that you can still try and do an entire section with minimal stops and starts. And then when I remove my pounce, I'm just using a lint brush just so you can get the effect. That is what my stitching would be like. Now if we apply this exact same design on a different grid, here we're going to use the triangle grid. Again, our sequence will apply, but we need to now find a way to let this run because we have additional legs, or one leg less. Actually, we have more legs because you'll see now that we're going to work over several triangles at a time. But we are breaking this down in sections still, and we're looking for a way that we can travel from one triangle to the other with minimal stops and starts. So here we go. I would typically go, and I would probably start here, and I will go curve up, down. Now I'm traveling to the next triangle. I'm going to work in rows. So I go curve up, around the legs, curve around the leg. The next triangle is just 2 curves, curve, curve. 3 curves, 2 curves. So I'm making these arcs around the legs of the triangles. Now when I'm done with this section, I need to close up the remainder, so I'll travel back. Now I'm ready to go with the next one. And I need to just look at what my sequence did. So I'm going to go this one first, then down. In other words, to get to this triangle. Curve, 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 curve. And let that run through until you completed a section. Close them back up again. Okay, that's one there in order to get to the next triangle. Now let's say, did you see what I've just done? I just went at the other side of the leg, and that's okay because I can actually come back on that side to close that triangle and still be where I need to be so that I can continue. But you do need to do this mindfully and keep your head together, and you'll be able to do this quick and easy. When you're ready and done with, you can close up that whole section. And this design is really pretty. It creates these little flowers. And there you can see that. So the same design again. Now we're going to work over a hex. Remember, we're working with a curve, and we want to put a curve around each leg. Now the thing with the hexagon grids is now we're going to work in a diagonal line in the hex. So we're going to find a spot to start. Let's say we're going to start there, and I'm going to go curve, 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 curve. Now I'm ready to go to the next one. So I go curve, 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 and let that run until you are done with your section. Close her up. Close it up. Ready to start with the next one. Curve, curve, curve. Okay. Ready to close it up. Let's close it up. Ready to start with the next row. You're just going to finish this row so you can see what the design does. Not a complicated thing to stitch. You just need to find a logical way to go from one shape to the other to complete your design. Now I'm finished with the rows or the sections I want to do, so I'm just going to close up what remains. And if I remove my grid, that is what you'll end up with in your stitching. Now this one might seem a bit complicated. Let's say you take this grid and you just want to actually stitch the grid, and maybe this will help you make more sense. The grid works like this, the hexagon grid. If you want to just stitch the hexagons, find a spot to start, and I prefer doing it this way. I'm going to stitch down, fill the leg, come back up again, up, down, leg, up, down, leg, up, down, leg, up, down, leg. When I'm done, I can go down, leg, up, down, leg, up, down, leg, up, down, leg. Find a way to travel. So typically this would be your ditch until you reach the next spot to stitch in. Up, down, leg, up, down, leg, up, down, leg, up, down. And that way you can stitch your hexagon grid with minimal stops and starts. You would, however, have traveling. So this you can do either with your ruler or do it slowly freehand. I hope you'll go and try this and let us see your results. Enjoy!
we'd highlight some of the different scissors that you come across and have access to during your quilting day, and just to chat through them and see the benefits of them. I don't know if you're like me, but I can never find my scissors. I've just spent 10 minutes hunting through the studio trying to find this small selection for you. So one of the great things is this zinger that Handi Quilter has. It clips onto your clothing and then onto your small scissors. So you always have them close to you for when you're quilting to cut off those threads and make the quilt tidy as you go along. It's one of the best things ever. You must just be careful that you don't end up in the supermarket with it still on, which happens quite often. The other scissors that I love, that I now that I have them, I just can't do without, are batting scissors. So friends of ours were overseas recently, and they bought a pair of scissors looking remarkably like these that were for pizza, to cut your pizza, but these ones are for cutting batting. So if you think of batting normally and a normal scissor with a sharp point, as you try to put your scissor through, it's continually getting caught on the batting with the point of the scissor. So these batting scissors of Handi Quilter, you can see they've got a very flat and rounded ends to them, so it slips under the batting, it never gets caught. You've got a nice sharp cutting blade, and they work absolutely beautifully. I really can't do without them. They're available in the online store. Have a look there. Our technical tip for the month: it's that time of year, if you live in the northern part of South Africa, it's thunderstorm time. So the question goes around, what should you do with your machine to protect it? With all our fabulous lightning storms that should be happening but haven't started yet, hopefully they're just around the corner, you need to keep that machine of yours as safe as you possibly can. So number one, whether it's electrical storm season or not, is to unplug your machine. When you're not using it, obviously, if you walk away for a few minutes, then I leave mine plugged in. If I'm going to be leaving for more than half an hour or so at a time, then I actually unplug the power cable at the back of the machine. You could unplug the plug into the socket in the wall or into your extension. It doesn't matter as long as there's no connection of your machine to the electricity supply. The other thing that I do is I make sure all my machines are attached to one of these multi-plugs that has a surge protector on it. We know that our power supply is not the most reliable. There are quite big fluctuations sometimes in the voltage. So the power surge protector, that helps to look after the electronics of your machine as well. And finally, I also use a UPS, an uninterrupted power supply. It's not as critical because that's more for fixing up voltage fluctuations. So if you're using a surge protector, it's not as critical. It also means the UPS has a battery. If the power does go off, it generally allows the machine to continue functioning, just for you to finish that bit of the pattern that you were working with, and then turn everything off safely and properly and unplug. So remember, when it's lightning season, make sure those machines are unplugged if you're not going to be working on them. And if there's a storm approaching, it's time to turn off and go do something else.